Anyway, it's a really good movie.
Wonder Woman 1984 is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the character of Wonder Woman, it's embarrassing for the filmmakers, and most of all, when watching the film, it was embarrassing for me, and probably you too. How does a film that cost $200 million, that took 3 years to make, and was directed by Patty Jenkins, turn out this bad? Well, they probably put half the budget into the CGI for Cheetah, so the money was tight. But at least the cast had fun.
What about the movie? I think that the fact that the movie is about hope and about love, and I think that we always aspire to have these values in our lives.
There are a lot of people calling this the Batman and Robin of the Wonder Woman movies, and honestly, I wouldn't go that far in bullying Batman and Robin. Being completely serious, I actually don't think there are any superhero sequels that you can compare this to in terms of quality. This is the worst of the worst.
That just a trash can.
It's just a trash can. Yeah.
I went to see Wonder Woman 1984 in the cinema on New Year's Eve, a few days after its Australian theatrical release. I suggested to my family that we go to it together because it had the appearance of a crowd pleaser, a choice I would later come to regret. About a month earlier, we went to see Tenet, which despite loving it myself, the plot basically flew over all of our heads. So at this point, I'm already skating on thin ice with my movie recommendations. We walk into the theater, sit down, and then throughout the ads, me and my brother discuss what we liked and didn't like about the first movie. 20 minutes later, the theater's logo appears on the screen, which usually signifies that the film is about to start. Right at that moment, this girl seated next to us whispers, "Shut the fuck up." Now, this person was evidently a big fan of Wonder Woman, because she had bought the Wonder Woman 1984 popcorn tin and drink cup, which are usually like $20, and that in of itself was fine. It didn't bother me. I get told to shut the fuck up on the regular in YouTube comments. I mention it here though, because midway through the movie, this person straight up walks out of the theater and doesn't come back. Like, leaves the cup there and everything. That by itself should tell you just how bad this movie was, given that a dedicated fan of the first film would be like, I don't have time for this. So the film basically has two opening scenes. The opening scene has young Diana compete in a race on Themyscira. The next opening scene has Wonder Woman stop some burglars at a mall. The only thing these two scenes have in common is that they both do nothing to establish the plot of the film or push it forward. But that was even before they brought in the wishing stone plot device. In fact, the actual opening scene is really the scene where Diana and Barbara unbox this ancient stone. Wishing in a movie is not inherently dumb, and to give the film credit, it established a lighthearted tone where such a feature wouldn't be out of place. Disney's Aladdin did it well, because only Aladdin and Jafar used the magic lamp throughout the film, and it could closely focus on their choices which shaped the theme of greed. Wonder Woman 1984 on the other hand, by the end of the film, gives literally everyone in the world the ability to be granted one wish. The rules of wishing are very loose and not explained or illustrated well. Wonder Woman loses her powers as a consequence for her wish, whereas Cheetah loses her personality. Patty Jenkins confirmed a fan theory that when the wishes are renounced, their past effects are removed as well, which basically makes the whole film redundant, and nothing that happened matters. It was getting to the White House action scene in the movie when I began questioning why the film was set in 1984 at all. The film doesn't make use of the era through even surface level elements such as music and practical effects. Furthermore, the film is actually fundamentally weakened by being a prequel to Batman v Superman and Justice League, because we know that Diana will survive and won't ever mention what happened in the film again. That was fine for the first movie because it was more about learning her origin. I mean, we know Batman won't die in Batman Begins, but sequels benefit from the implication that anything can happen in the story. The obvious sequel would be to set Wonder Woman in the modern day. The final scene of the first film effectively set that up, so I'm not sure as to the reason why Patty Jenkins decided to set this film in the 80s. However, I think this movie could have been salvageable with good editing. There is a solid 90-minute film in here that is unfortunately stretched out to 2.5 hours, with a lot of quick cutting that never lets shots breathe. This is particularly noticeable in the mall sequence at the start of the film. Back to the cinema, I'm up to the point where Wonder Woman walks away from Steve Trevor and renounces her wish. This should be a powerful moment, but it just isn't because it's a repeat of what happened in the first movie. Steve Trevor is dead, Diana stops being naive, and we're back to square one. Again, nothing matters. The movie has no major theme unless it's just wishing is bad. Some may argue that the theme is greed, but when the wishes are so broad that anyone on the planet can make one, inevitably some people would be selfless. But the worst thing the film did occurred right in the climax. In this sequence, Diana indulgently reads out the messages of the movie to the audience, like we're dumb. It talks down to us. It was in that moment as I was sitting in that theater that my gut sunk. This was the culmination of all the bad dialogue, forced acting, bloated CGI, and ugly cinematography. And I was done. I genuinely wanted to look away from the screen. That was a totally crap movie, said everyone in unison in the car as we drove home. Man, that was one long ride. And sure enough, I felt embarrassed.
For 2 years,
But
and then that
but
fell
Monster
through.
got you the gig. Like, you know, you had chops as a director, and you could TV wanted to
Yeah.
hire you. You could get gigs.
Yeah, I feel super lucky that everybody in the industry wanted to hire me, but I felt like they wanted to hire me like a beard. They wanted me to walk around on set being a woman director, but it was their story
Right.
and their vision.
So they could go, look, we got one. There she is. Look at her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my ideas, they were like, oh, I don't even want to read. They wouldn't even read the script.
Right.
You know, it was such mistrust of a different way of doing things and a different point of view. Even all the way up to Wonder Woman. When I first joined Wonder Woman, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, but let's do it this other way. And I was like, that's not how women don't want to see that. And that's not her being harsh and tough and cutting people's heads off. Like that's not what I'm a Wonder Woman fan. That's not what we're looking for.
You already made one monster movie about a woman.
Let's take a look at these films as if they were the only Wonder Woman pieces of media and the comics and animation didn't exist. Is Diana Prince a well-written character, and does she have interesting arcs across these two movies? The long answer is no, even despite Gal Gadot being likable in the role. The first Wonder Woman movie could have had a compelling coming-of-age arc for Diana about naivety. Throughout the film, she believes Ares the god of war to be behind World War I. Towards the end of the film, she fights Ludendorff, who she believes to be Ares in disguise, but finds out that he is simply human. This is where Diana's arc should have essentially concluded. She realizes that life isn't as simple as there being one person responsible for all the suffering and evil in the world, and she grows as a character. That would have been a great ending. However, the film continues after the scene for another 30 minutes. Wonder Woman realizes that Ares is actually in disguise as Lupin from Harry Potter, and is completely responsible for World War I. She then fights him in an epic third act final battle, where before this sequence, Wonder Woman's worldview was challenged. Due to this ending, her beliefs throughout the film are validated and she doesn't change. So what was the point of the movie if she was right all along? Due to this choice, Diana loses her relatability. The second film at least tries to give Diana a complete character arc. It's just really dumb. Wonder Woman by accident makes a wish that brings Steve Trevor back to life in another man's body. After seeing the damage that the wishes create on multiple occasions, Wonder Woman finally decides to renounce her wish. She learns that wishing is bad. The moral of the story again isn't about greed, because Diana is never depicted as being greedy. When she brings Steve back to life, it's by mistake, so really, she doesn't learn anything again. This is why Wonder Woman is a boring character in these films, because she's depicted as being flawless and lacks any connection to us. Now let's look at Gal Gadot's portrayal of the character in the context of Wonder Woman being a recognized icon. Wonder Woman means a lot to a vast amount of people from all around the world. Unlike Batman and Superman, there's not one definitive interpretation of the character, although there are core values that over her 80-year history have become inherent to the character. The DC Comics website states that Wonder Woman is constantly torn between her mission to promote peace and her need to fight back against the pervasive violence within humanity. Diana struggles to walk a line between her warrior strength and endless compassion each and every day. Wonder Woman 1984 presents Wonder Woman as a selfish character who places her relationship with Steve Trevor above the lives of the rest of the world, and who only does the right thing when her back is against the wall. This is why, due to this film, the character of Wonder Woman has been embarrassed. I'd love to say that there was one major reason why Wonder Woman 1984 turned out the way that it did. That studio interference caused Patty Jenkins' vision to be ruined, and that somewhere there is a better version of this movie. But in this case, it seems that Wonder Woman 1984 isn't as simple as there being one evil studio responsible for all of its faults. Right now, I don't think there is that reason. The movie is just bad. So I'm going to say something that might come as a surprise. I am happy this movie exists the way it is, because the only part of this movie that is not embarrassing is that Patty Jenkins got to make the movie she wanted to make. Even though it sucks, even though it's the worst movie of 2020, even though it's maybe DC's worst film, that's something worth appreciating.